Right, we should be live now. At least I've clicked the button. Oh, so Monday night stream. Let's see how this goes. Whether or not I keep doing the solo live streams is kind of going to depend on the the echo there was me accidentally. Hello, hello. The echo there was me accidentally pulling up the YouTube of the stream and having it start talking to me. So well, I'm glad to see that there are people and you have found me. Yay! It has been it has been a Monday, which is the interesting thing about switching to a Monday evening is me on a Monday night is different than me on Friday night. Because I tend to be a little more rested on Mondays because Friday, obviously, end of my work week. But the other thing too is that I actually work at making Sundays a down day for me. Usually not a day where I do absolutely nothing. For one thing, we get together with friends Sunday mornings and have breakfast together, and which is lovely and really a kind of a pivotal point for my week. But yesterday I also had a couple of friends over and we had tea and scones, and it was lovely. And we will have to do that every couple of weeks. All of us are too busy to do it too often, but if we can squeak it in once a month, I'll be happy. And of course, the day job today was fairly quiet and undemanding. I will get tangled to the point where I am hopeless. If I have um, murder needles in my hair and I try to pull a sweater on or even just regular hair sticks in my hair. Okay, so I had said in the teaser for this that I would talk about lemon marmalade, which was kind of one of those I'm being silly, but I wasn't because a while back, and it was before we moved to Texas, so it's been at least 2 years, which is why I wanted to use it up. I had made a batch of lemon marmalade. What happened was that there was a sale at Jungle Jim's on Meyer lemons, and I had always wanted to try them. And Jungle Jim's has this section where it's like clearance produce. So I would grab random weird things that I wanted to try or things that I knew I really liked, like 25 pounds of peaches. And I would get a bunch of fruit and do something with it. Peaches usually just got frozen because my daughters love to use them in like milkshakes and smoothies. But I got the Meyer lemons and I did a bunch of different recipes, including I made lemon marmalade out of the lemons. So the last jar of lemon marmalade I had opened, and it's not, I I did not process the lemon peel very finely, so it was very chunky lemon marmalade. And what I wound up doing was I made scones with the lemon marmalade, replacing almost all of the sugar. And I also added 2 tablespoons of bourbon, which sadly that flavor didn't work well. I need something really strongly flavored, especially to compete with the lemons. But I made scones that were lemon marmalade bourbon scones. Or as Leota Wackel said when I told her what I was doing, hot toddy scones. And they came out very well. I also made savory scones because one of the people I was inviting over hadn't been there for breakfast. So I knew that 2 of us would have eaten that day. One of us has a tendency to forget to eat until someone reminds her to eat. So I made savory scones and sweet scones and made sure that she ate something that day. And then I sent scones home with her too. And as far as tea, we kind of were a random whatever I had. I have a rather broad selection of like random tea bags because my daughters love tea and I had collected a lot. I was drinking Cossack's Kiss, which is a smoky Russian caravan type tea. And I think that the other guests were drinking chai and trying some different things, and it was fun. And we just sat there and talked for a couple of hours and had scones and tea and the boy was going in and out because just before they arrived for tea, the boy got a phone call from a friend saying, "Hey, want to come shoot?" And so I had sent the lad off with the world's fastest, again, briefing on repeat the safety rules to me, and you're pro, and here's a box of ammo, but don't shoot all of it. 22. He took his 22 rifle, and he and a buddy. Actually, it sounds like there was a couple of buddies there from college were on one of the parents' farms shooting at a range, and they taught him how to shoot. He got to shoot somebody's 45 Magnum and a shotgun, and came home in a giddy state of excitement. So that was good. I absolutely love that the kid is hanging around with some really good influences like this. So I was both, as a mom, I'm like, he's going off with other teenagers and all of them with their weapons. And I'm like, but on the other hand, I wanted him to go do that and have a relaxed, fun time as long as he was being safe to go and share that experience. Because, I mean, range time should be fun and also safe. And yeah, he's going to go through a more formal safety program with Jim Curtis, who's a certified instructor. It just hasn't been done yet, but I wasn't gonna. I wanted the kid to go have fun shooting, and then I think that'll actually make the safety class better for him, knowing that this is something that's fun, but I also need to know more about the safety stuff. So I don't know. It was a decision. And then we had a lovely tea, and of course he came in before we were done with tea and wanted to talk to them, and it's nice to have friends that completely understand, are right there with me on this is a good thing, and you done good, kid. And Sanford hid for like the entire tea. Um, so yeah, lemon marmalade scones worked out really nicely. And I actually think I may try the lemon marmalade again, only this next time I'm gonna process um the peel more finely because I had chunks in there that were the size of the end of my thumb, which is too big for lemon peel. Well, orange peel too, for that matter. And I was kind of going with a more reminiscent to a whiskey marmalade when I did the bourbon marmalade scones. I like an English marmalade that's almost bitter. The American marmalades that barely taste of anything except sweet, not my cup of tea at all. Um, so sorry, differs. Um, I'm probably not entertaining for the kids to watch, so I completely understand that kid TV wins out over that one. Sure, I could do a how-to on making lemon marmalade. That's a thing to schedule for soon-ish. Um, I have not been doing a lot of cooking recently because I have been working on other things, and mostly by other things, I'm talking about Crow Moon right now. This last weekend, over the course of the weekend, and I finished by Sunday morning. By the time we were at breakfast at 9:30, I had finished with writing 10,000 words on the honeymooners, which is one of the stories that I was doing for Crow Moon. And I had written the first little bit of that and put it up on the blog, oh gosh, a year or two ago. If you search my blog, you can find it still. I haven't taken down the snippet because it's just a tiny piece of it. And I had intended to take the little snip I'd done for the blog for a prompt and lengthen it, fill it out, and make it more of a thing for the collection. What I didn't expect was 10,000 words later. But it's good because now I have 8 stories in the collection. The shortest one is only 1,700 words, so it's just slightly longer than flash fiction, and the longest one is almost 12,000 words, so verging on novelette range. Um, and yeah, it was. I'm really happy with what I wound up for content for it because this was one of those things that I'm experimenting. And this is actually something we talked about over tea because all three of us are all three of us are indie writers and publishers, and so we were talking business and as well as just life and stuff, which is really nice to be able to do. I know that it's not something that I had in my life before I got here, and the fact that I can do it now is just blows me away. It makes me really happy. Um, but the discussion was particularly about me because I am scattered. I am all over the place. I do science fiction, I do fantasy, I do art, I do children's stuff. I'm illustrating the Law Dog stuff, and I, the problem is that if I really want to make a living from writing, which I do not right now, but it is actually the long term goal of being my retirement for me to be able to make a living off writing. In order to get there, I'm going to have to eventually pick a lane and stick with it. And I don't want to do that. And I'm like, I find myself really rebelling against that of, oh, you've got to do this. And I'm like, but I don't want to. This is fun. And then that's fun. And my little ADHD brain just bounces all over the place. So Crow Moon is all fantasy stories, but there's, well, I mean, The Honeymooners is set in about 1960, and I never really give a huge time frame as far as um, timing on it, other than you can tell it's in the past, there's no cell phones, that kind of thing. But The Honeymooners is a young couple who have to they've literally, the story opens as they're on their way from being married to the wedding reception. And they're going to be getting to know one another, making some big momentous decisions about their new life together. And that's the core of the story. The fact that it's a fantasy story, it's also in some senses a romance a little bit after the fact, which is interesting because I seem to be doing that. There's a couple of things that I have written recently that have been in that same kind of track. Milkweed is a story that I wrote probably 10 years ago. It was published 7 or 8 years ago in a kind of artsy literary fantasy magazine, which was kind of cool that one of my stories got published in this very literary magazine. Um, and so it's been, I mean, it's been out there, but it's been out of circulation for about 7 years now. So I wanted to put Milkweed into the book. And Milkweed is me exploring um, motherhood and connections and friendship. So then Goddess's Tears, which when you see the cover for Crow Moon, the cover is loosely based on Goddess's Tears. And it is dark. Goddess's Tears is me writing after having binged on Jirel of Joy Rhee in a really deep sense, really looking at the structure, the language, the characters, the sheer mysticism of the sword and sorcery genre. And that's what I was trying to channel for Goddess's Tears, because I was writing for an anthology that wanted that. Now I've got the copyright back. The anthology's been out for a couple of years, and so I will be publishing Goddess's Tears in this collection for readers that either missed the anthology or um, didn't want to buy the anthology or whatever. So the that one is, there's no romance in it at all. It's very dark. Um, but I really enjoyed writing that one and going back through to edit it for this collection and going over it again and just basically checking it over and putting back in some stuff that I'd had cut for length out of the original anthology appearance. Yeah, I'm still really happy with that story. So then the one that follows that, what I was trying to do with the story arrangement for Pearl Moon was to do long, short, but also to do things that were thematically not similar so that I didn't have readers being jarred when I switched from one thing to another, and also just to make it more interesting. So Breath of Air is the shortest, and I don't think I can really describe it really well because it is so short. I'll spoil it, but it's very wistful. It's very strange. It Like a lot of my super short stuff, I'm implying a whole lot more than I'm stating. And I like to write like that, but I also understand that a lot of readers don't care to read that because they want everything laid out in detail for them. And there's times that I just don't want to do that. I mean, with Honeymooners, I was trying to be there's some things in there I was just trying to be very subtle, have a light touch. You have to read it and follow what's going on in order to get some of the subtext in Honeymooners and in Breath of Air. Um, and then that leads me to Child of Crows, which is the longest story in the book, so shortest, longest. But Child of Crows opens immediately following the end of Possum Creek Massacre. And it basically talks about the how Amaya Lombard came to have lost her arm, which is something that comes up in Possum Creek, and I have it, and it's mentioned in the initial story about her, which is Snow in Her Eyes. Child of Crows is dark, dark urban fantasy, and it actually in some ways does explore motherhood, and it also explores captivity, because that resonates with my life and stuff that I've dealt with. So when I write, sometimes what I've gone through, what I'm processing comes out, and in Child of Crows, that's what was coming out there. So, hello. So from Child of Crows, I go to Wild Fae, which is another one that's never appeared anywhere else. Child of Crows appeared in an anthology a couple of years ago, and Wild Fae was written for an anthology, and it wasn't rejected. I never sent it. The anthology just fell apart and never happened. So I decided to go ahead and put it into this, and it's got the Wild Hunt in it because I don't know. For some reason, I keep doing the Wild Hunt and things. I mean, if you read the East Witch, you'll see what I mean. And it features Large in the Pixie Noir series, and Wild Fae isn't in either of those. Wild Fae is actually probably closer to some of the fairy legends, Fairy Queen, and the Fae stealing children mythology than some of the stuff that I've written before. And then, so then, yes, Wild Sanford appears, and I realize you can't see his arm. Hang on. We'll see if I can pan up slowly.
That's a bit late.
Yeah. I just don't want to make them seasick by moving the camera around too fast. Oh, stop. You're a bad man. Um, yeah, so Domovoy's Blessing, again, that one appeared in an anthology a couple years back, an anthology that I don't think got a lot of readership, um, for reasons. But it is very much it's a courtship story in the style, very deliberately. I styled it after some of the Russian fairy tales. So it's involves a quest um, and being willing to accept the bargain on the face of it without question, and then have David and Becky say hi. I think he can read the chat, but I'm not sure. It's small print. So, Crow Moon winds up ending with a Lom story. And it's one that had been available on my blog, and it's not anymore, sorry. So it is very definitely a Pixie Noir story. It is set before Pixie Noir, and it involves Lom telling a story to his nephew, Devon. And it was a lot of fun to write because I actually went back and read it to edit it for this, and I had forgotten. I remember the basics of what I had written, but I'm really bad about these things because I write stuff and then I forget that they exist. So it has Alger in it, which I knew, but I had forgotten that I had also written this other character, and I should do something with him, but then again, I keep saying that the honeymooners, I think, may have introduced something, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. But yeah, that's the those are the 8 stories in Crow Moon, and I will be releasing that soon. Part of the reason that I'm not giving a date on release yet is because the ebook will not be illustrated. Um, and the print book will be illustrated. And I'm working with Midjourney to create the art for the print book because I have learned things about how to put in art in vellum so that it flows across spreads and underneath the text. So I am going to have some fun with the art. I want to do a really nice like art illustrated version if I can. If I can't, it'll just be a print version. It's novel length. I mean, it's almost 60,000 words of fiction that'll be going into this. Um, and yeah, it's I'm having fun with it. But the problem is, and this is where I was talking about calendars and planning, what I'm trying to do right now is do publishing velocity. So I'm publishing a new title every month, which it, we will see how it works because I'm not publishing novels. I'm going to be working on Tanager's Flight, but I won't have it ready to publish for a couple of months. Realistically, probably 3 or 4 months. Um, but if I am publishing these other things, then I'm wondering how that's going to parlay into building my fan base because I know I've got, and bless you all for being here listening to me right now. I know I've got some people that enjoy my stuff and look for it, but it's if I'm going to eventually use this to make my living, then I'm going to have to grow the fan base to the point where I'm selling enough that I can pay the bills and the mortgage. And I mean, ideally before I retire, I've paid off the mortgage, but then I've still got property taxes and bills. So your income can never drop to zero because your bills sure aren't going to drop to zero. David, yes, I have gotten Jack's book of AI graphic creation. It is excellent. Jack Wilder and I are actually in a Mid-Journey, a private server, so I can pick his brains and bounce things off him. We bounce things off of each other sometimes. He's approaching it very differently than I am because I don't have the time to devote to it the way he's been. But I think it's excellent that not only that he put this book together, which is a fantastic resource, but Bain is distributing that for him. So he is hopefully going to be making some decent money off that because Jack's a freelancer and he is making a living off what he does, so he needs that. Um, and yeah, no, Jack is a great guy. His wife Jill seems like a sweetie. And I definitely recommend that if you are getting serious about um, using an AI for graphic design, Jack's book is great. It is focused on Midjourney, but it can also be used for other similar graphic design programs. I have not experimented with any of the AI programs because I don't have time. I have Midjourney. Midjourney's working for me. I'm getting some fabulous stuff out of Midjourney, and it's only getting better. I mean, it's not perfect, which is nice because honestly, there are times as an artist, I'm like, I don't even know why I bother because I can just go to Midge and generate things until I get what I want rather than spending hours of time working on creating something, not to mention the countless hours of time learning the skills in order to create that something. I understand why some artists absolutely hate the whole AI thing. It's it is a fantastic tool, and I'm really happy I have it. And I'm certainly not going to stop using it. Um, so I am drinking. This is actually hard cider. This is a dark cherry hard cider by Locust Cider, and okay, that's what I was curious about because I hadn't drunk any before just now, and it's sweet, and says it's blended with Bing cherries, so that's why the sweet. I mean, it's not overly sweet, but there's definitely that Bing cherry sweetness to it. It's not like cough syrup cherry, which would be nasty. Um, but I I like hard ciders, so when I saw this with the cherry, which I also like if it's done right, I grabbed it. And it's not bad. Definitely has more of an apple aftertaste than a cherry aftertaste. So yeah, Chromoon is coming. The publishing pace is going to be interesting. February will be the PTSD anthology. I'm slowly getting a few submissions of that, and I know that David is working on one that is going to be a tearjerker, it looks like. And I will start working on my own for that before too long. Um, yeah, sour cherry cider is really nice. That's kind of what I was expecting when I took a sip of this first. Was I was expecting the sour cherry. I was a little surprised it was the Bing cherry because I hadn't read the label closely. Um, so PTSD is in February, which means with Pro Moon coming out in December, that I'll be releasing something in January. I don't know what off the top of my head. However, one of the things that I have done um, in my whole shopping for Cyber Monday and Black Friday was I bought a reusable calendar. I'm going to swing this around so you might be able to see it. Hopefully not make you seasick. So you can see it's a dry erase calendar, annual one with fill in the blanks, and then there's a monthly one. And the abstract piece of art was painted for me by Johan a couple of years back. And you can see my current year's calendar with the Frazetta art. So that is my planning wall. I have a whiteboard on the other end of the office, but I use that for more like lists of um, stories that I want to work on, stories that I am working on, plotting the list of graphic designs because I had a bunch of covers art come in orders that I needed to fulfill. So in order to make sure that I got all of them, I wrote them all down and then was checking them off as I delivered um, covers. And I'm down to one piece that I need to sketch and give a quote to the person that's asked me for. Actually, it's a traditional art commission, and I suspect that by the time I give them a quote, it's going to be more than they want to pay. Because it's a big piece. I don't have time, and I'm not going to undervalue myself on this one. So, but irrelevant to that's what I have to do. I have to plan better so that I can try and get everything done that's supposed to get done and not miss anything. And if I can maintain this velocity of publishing, I'm hoping that it will mean that when I do release things like a novel, that they do better selling right out of the gate, because then that boosts them in the algorithms for Amazon. I'm experimenting with Amazon ads, and so far haven't really had any substantial results on that. I'm going to be experimenting with adding more keywords. So I've learned recently that when you keyword, when you first publish on Amazon, you only get two keywords that you can pick out, or categories that you can put them in. But once the book is published, you can reach out through your Author Central page and request that the book be added to more categories. I forget how many now you can add, 7 or 8 or something like that. And that I've done that so far with the fantasy art and architecture book. And I have noted, I mean, it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not selling a lot, but it's selling consistently, which it was not doing initially. And Courtney Bryant, who writes the C.V. Walter, helped me do that. So I think that I'm going to try that now on a couple of other books and see if that changes some of the discoverability of the titles and possibly helps them appear in a little bit more targeted fashion when people are looking for something. Amazon ads also helps with that. So if you look for a book on Amazon, you'll note that the first, I don't know, like 3 results now is a sponsored book. Yeah, keyword everything, because that's how it works. And you have to work with the algorithms if you want people to be able to find your book. I mean, heck, even if I look for myself on Amazon and I type in Cedar Sanderson, the first few results are not my books. They are other people's books that have been keyword tagged to me. So I need to also play that game, because that's how that's going to work. If I don't play that game, then I'm not going to sell as much. And as much as I hate the game playing thing, it's also a valid marketing tactic. But hello, Ben. So yeah, so I'm planning forward into the next year. And I have a bunch of stories that I'm writing that are going to be appearing in the Raconteur Press anthologies, which are the Space Cowboys, Space Marines. One of the Malta anthologies, we're up to several. That was an entertaining conversation, but And I have a bunch of stuff that I would like to write just sheerly for me. I need to finish Tanager's Flight. And I've got a Chloe story I've been working on and I'm stalled out in. Um, and eventually I'll actually get the rights back to some stuff that's been in anthologies the last few years. And I'll do more collections. I've got a science fiction collection I'll release at some point. Um, because I've got a couple of stories that can go in that, and I could write a couple more. So I have ways of maintaining the publishing velocity without making it a novel every month, because I can't do that. That is not realistic. I realize this. And I'm doing the art. I'm really excited because Ian sent me a story that is fresh, brand new. It's never been published anywhere for the Squeaks saga. So we are going to have a brand new Law Dog story in Squeaks when Squeaks comes out. Squeaks might be the January release because it's almost certainly not going to be a December release at this point. I have got to start to do the illustrations. I'd stopped for a little while to focus on all the graphic design work, and because I was waiting for Law Dog to give me the story, which he did. um, right, and that's the thing, is most readers don't read broadly. Most readers are interested in one thing and they want the author to give them that thing over and over again. I can't do that. I will get bored and I will go crazy and I will stop writing. So, I mean, um, my thing is probably going to be that I will have to develop a couple of pen names and segregate out. I mean, certainly when I start writing more romance, that's all going under Lilania Begley, along with the one lonely little one that exists now. Um, but Cedar Sanderson may wind up being, I may wind up devoting Cedar Sanderson to fantasy and shifting my science fiction to another name, an open pen name, and linked names. I mean, I still have Cedar on there. I don't know what yet. Maybe I'll claim Sanford's name. Um,
Cedar Sanford.
no, no. Oh. So the thing with the pipeline, David, is that you have to keep writing, but as your stories come out of copyright, and most anthologies, good legit anthologies, will only hold the copyright for about a year. Oh, good, Becky, thank you. Um, so when your story comes out of copyright, what you want to do is collect 4 or 5. I mean, I'm doing 8 with Pro Moon, but some of them are quite short. 3 of them are less than 3,000 words. So, um, yes, Raconteur is becoming the new analog. I have said this, that it is becoming a magazine, and kind of an awesome one at that. I really love the concept of this is where anthologies are going. But I digress. To do a collection of your own work is a really good way for people to be able to find just you if they like your stuff and they don't want to buy anthologies for whatever reason. I don't know why not, but hey. Um, and it's, I mean, some people write short, it's just their length. So having a collection of 5 or 6 shorts that might be the same length as a short novel is a classic thing that used to be done. He's a growing boy differs. It could go either way. Um, so I don't think there's any issue at all with collecting shorts, and it's even fun if you do um, shorts that are on in the same world, maybe has some of the same characters, not necessarily all. So there's lots of different ways you could do that. And obviously if you're writing, anthology submissions tend to be thematic. So it can be really hard to tie them into an existing world, or awkward, and might lead to them getting rejected if you do it and it doesn't fit what the anthology wants. But there's certainly ways to either edit them, file off the serial numbers when you get them back, or just group them together as the common thread is you, the author, and put a cover on it, which with these days with Midjourney and the other AI art, it is easier to get a cover than using stock art. It's still going to cost you time and effort and probably money, especially if you're using Midge. But it's no different than getting stock art. It's just more. Um, so long spurt differs. Uh, if you could cap it like an oil well and tap into that energy, we'd solve the world's energy crisis. Um, um, but yeah, collections are definitely a way to go, especially if you don't write novels, and not everybody does write novels. Plus, you get paid twice. You get paid by the anthology, and then you get paid again when you do a collection. So there you go. Yes, you absolutely should do a book of Charlotte McInnes stories. That would be really fun. But that's the thing, is you have to plan for what you're going to do and keep track of what you've submitted where and when they come out of copyright, so you can kind of keep track of, okay, by end of 2023 I'm going to have 4 stories, plus I want to write 2 stories, put it all together and call it a collection. So, but and you definitely want to keep track of what you have sent where. I have a running spreadsheet. I'd actually shared a screenshot from it, and then got teased because the title was on the number, because there's actually a column with numbers and I didn't screenshot that. But regardless, uh, the uh, the spreadsheet helps me kind of keep an eye on what I have out there, what I've worked on and then stopped for whatever reason. It was a little demoralizing when I first put it together because I had 33 works in progress, or well, some of these are flash fiction, so they actually were finished. I just didn't know what to do with them. Speaking of which, I'm looking at this now, and I should throw a couple of these in with the in with Pearl Moon.
Story, flash, story, flash, story, flash.
Anyhow, I don't
You
know.
could be a flasher.
Well, I mean, I've also talked about doing a whole collection of flash fiction, because I have probably 20 or 30 flash fiction stories. Not sure that's enough for a collection. We'll see.
Perfect title for it. Confessions of a Flasher.
Uh, I'm not titling it Confessions of a Flasher. Boy.
Flasher comes out.
No.
Hey, I'm a flasher.
Oh, I'm glad she's listening and giggling. Sanford, be good. Juniper's still listening.
You'd get a lot of readers that wouldn't normally pick your stuff up.
Possibly, but then they'd be disappointed because
Hey, they're never going to read your stuff anyhow. So if you get a few bucks out of them, that's great.
I mean, I know I'm scattered, and the resolution to that is probably pen names. But I do want to keep the publishing tempo going, because even if I'm publishing under 3 different pen names, if I'm doing one publication a month, then that's still every couple of months for each pen name. So that might work. Oh gosh, no, because then I need another pen name for art. This could get confusing. I don't know about this. I'm not sure I want to do that way. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll run a poll somewhere in one of the groups. It was very, very helpful. I got some feedback on title ideas for the collection from people, and I really appreciate that because sometimes I think something's cute. Well, I mean, zombie maggots. I didn't listen to the feedback on zombie maggots, and it does not sell well. So I'm hopefully have learned from that. Hopefully, probably not. I'm at a point right now where I can afford to experiment. I don't have to um I don't have to worry about making sure that everything I do is marketable. I can experiment, I can play around, I can be like, well, that didn't work, let's try this. And I, for a while yet, at least the next 15, maybe 20 years, I have that leeway of I'm experimenting. I can do this. And I can help out by doing things like running anthologies with no overhead costs so that 100% of the profits goes to the authors and editor, because I do give myself an editor's chunk when I do anthologies, but I don't take anything up front. Most anthologies have to because they do have costs out of pocket. Um, oh, yeah, probably a funny place to come into the live stream for sure. Um, so I've got some advantages right now. I can do things like I can do cover design for friends that can't afford a cover because I love their books and I want them to succeed. So I can give them really stellar covers that will sell their books without charging them for it because that's kind of the point right now of I want to value myself and value what I do, but I also want to be able to give gifts of can't afford to give gifts of cash to much in the way of anything, but I can give my talents a little bit, maybe. Hopes. Oh, good God. Right now, Law Dog has his hands full with anthologies. They keep proliferating. These things are like bunnies. You shut them in a closet, you open the door, and they all pile out on you in a big fluffy pile of anthologies. No, well, yeah, Confessions of a Flasher might make up for zombie maggots, maybe. Just on that, good God, I have no idea how well that would sell either. Um, oh yeah, no, Sanderly Studios is my business. So Sanderly Studios is a publisher. It's a graphic design house. It handles my art. All my IP is through Sanderly Studios, in all of its various iterations. And the reasoning behind that is um, I used to be Stonycroft because that's the farm where I lived. And after I moved away from New Hampshire, I had that business name registered. Once that lapsed, I changed the business name to Sanderly, which is an amalgamation of my last name and Sanford's last name. So Sanderly Studios is my business. It covers all the IP that I create in all the wild various ways that I do that. Um, and I don't know what's going to become of this. I know that one of my kids, well, two of my kids have interest in what I do, sufficient that I have discussed with them if something should happen to me, they will pick up the reins and handle my IP so that there is a at that point, it probably wouldn't be much income, but it would be something. I mean, and there's something really sad about the idea of all of my IP ending or going into limbo when I do. Um, and something I might talk to the kids that are thinking of carrying on my stuff is that at a certain point, um, maybe let the copyright lapse or deliberately lapse the copyright and do DJson Fleming has this thing, Creative Commons, I think it is. Um, so that it could be used and accessible to people. I mean, I don't know that it's worth it, but that just might be me. Yes, I was trying to evoke tribbles because these are the anthologies are like tribbles. I mean, if you can get bunnies to breed, they do reproduce like that. And it's fun because the anthologies that Raconteur Press in particular are doing, because my anthologies are not easy, and I realize this. And I did get a fantastic response to the hunting anthologies. And in the beginning of the year, I will be opening submissions for an anthology called Weird Jobs, and I'll be running that alongside Lloyd Bain, who writes he writes some really fun fantasy, and he's got some science fiction, well worth looking up and reading. Martian Aria is amazing stuff. But after the second PTSD anthology, I don't intend to do run my own anthologies. Oh look, Christmas walks in. Thank you, love. Sanford just brought in packages off the front porch. I did all my Christmas shopping over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the packages are arriving. Um, Although also some of that is because I love my husband and I bought desk organization stuff for him as he runs away. So, anthologies, I'm not going to continue doing anthologies. However, Raconteur Press is more than making up for that. Because they open fun anthologies and people are like, that's really awesome, let's send in a story, and then they have to be like, okay, we're doing two anthologies or maybe three anthologies. So, and in talking to Courtney and Ian about that, they were telling me that they're just getting overall just really high levels of stories for these anthologies. They're getting some really great stories to publish, and they don't have to worry too much about rejecting stories because they're getting really good stuff, which is excellent. I was a little concerned about that when I first started doing anthologies because I hate the idea of having to reject stories. And I have had to reject stories. And it sucks. I don't like doing it. Um and but if you have a very specific theme, and with the PTSD anthologies, the stories have to have a strain of hope in them. They cannot end um in a hopeless nihilistic place. That's not what the anthologies are about. They are meant to have hope, to model hope, to bring hope to the readers. And that's about the only thing that'll get you rejected from the PTS. Oh, that is a fantastic idea, Ben. I can't run with it. I don't think anyone can run with it actually because it's probably copyright. But Flat Cat Press, yep, for anthology slash magazine. Well, and the other one too that I've got to ask about because I don't know when the deadline is Rita Law Dog's Lady is running Space Moggies, so stories about cats in space, and I actually have a story that I need to look at and maybe expand a little bit and then send off to her. I'm just not sure when the deadline is for that, so I don't know how quickly I need to get that done. Um, I will have to ask, but yeah, it's busy, it's good, it's all good. It's just kind of frantic sometimes. I mean, the fact that I got 10,000 words written this weekend. I had one day where I wrote 4,500 words, and I have not written that much in one day for years at this point, and it feels good. Um, I had I had a day where I wrote 3,000 words, day that I wrote the 4,500 words, another day where it was like 1,500 words, and I'm just like, this feels good. This is what I like when I'm passionate about the story and it's coming out. And I had gotten stuck on it. I got stuck on the ending of Honeymooners. And you'll get to a point and you'll know where it is. There's a huge decision. And I was trying to be too rational about it. And then I realized I had to back off and come at it from the emotional point. And at that point, it broke and it flowed, and I was able to get it finished. And I was able to write a really satisfying epilogue. And beta reader response has been great. So, yeah. Um, but yeah, no, Crow Moon will be released soon. I'm thinking, well, definitely before Christmas, but probably in the next couple of weeks. I will not spend too much time fussing with the illustrated version with Vellum. Um, if I can't make it work, I can't make it work. But I'm definitely going to be um, putting out the ebook version. Will not be. Are you late? You are never late, Kermit. Um, you're just what do they call that? Oh yes, a fashionable arrival. I have seen you in person. You have fashion. It's your own fashion, but it's a fashion. Um, the live stream may have frozen. I don't know. I didn't see it, but so yeah. So Chrome is gonna come out, and gonna get the illustrations done for the Squeak Saga because I've got the goat story to illustrate, which none of y'all have ever seen. Wahaha, I get to be first. So a brand new Law Dog story. And okay, I'm not even going into that comment. Um, so does Monday night work for everybody? I mean, obviously, sorry, Kermit. I know that for you does not. Um, but if Monday night works, I seem to have energy. The funny thing is, it should not lag. I have fiber. I have high speed fiber. It should not lag. That doesn't mean that it isn't lagging.